Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome from me to you from Melbourne, where I'm sitting in a little hotel room beaming out to you. I'd like to start our RegTech Edge No Borders program this afternoon by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, and I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. And I'd also like to offer a very warm welcome to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander friends with us today. I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to all of our members, our presenters and our special guests. Thank you very much for being here. We will get underway because we've got a lot to cover over the next hour. Thank you for joining us. I will start with a little bit of housekeeping. I'd really appreciate it if you could keep your cameras and mics off. Thank you very much. We will ask the presenters to turn those back on when it is their turn, and I will let them know when it is their turn. We will be doing all of the questions today in the Q&A chat function. So if you do have questions, I urge you to put those in the chat function, and I'll be encouraging the presenters to address those directly with you online. We will be recording this session, and we will email the recording to everybody that is registered today, including the people who may not be able to join us. We'll also be doing some polling during the event, so a little pop-up might come up on your screen, and we'd really appreciate it if you could quickly complete that. It should be pretty much a tick and flick, and that's giving us some valuable data, which is very useful to our programs. So I just wanted to take 1 minute to give some context about why we are here today and the subject matter. Following last week's critical, Jobs and Skills Summit that was convened by the Prime Minister in Canberra, it seems to be a happy coincidence that we had pre-scheduled this event here today to look at workforce management solutions. And this is our very first RegTech Edge employment compliance event. This is a huge growth area in the RegTech family. And I'm a big fan of this space. And if you've heard me speak at conferences and other programs, you will hear me talk about the importance of employment compliance, the complexity of managing employees, and that's become even more complex with the advent of remote and hybrid working. Questions that people may well be asking themselves, such as, are new employees who they say they are? Are their academic or other credentials valid? Are you as an employer paying your employees correctly with their fit and proper entitlements under the law? Is your employer keeping your data safe? So these are questions that people on the line may well be asking themselves, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them today. And what's really unique about this range of solutions is that they can benefit companies of all stages. So whilst our RegTech community have been focused on the large end of town, this unique segment of RegTech can actually address these pain points for small businesses as well. Today we had 110 registrations from 8 different countries, so welcome to those of you who are beaming in from other countries. Presenting today, we have the following companies: Credential, CV Check, Found You, PwC, Verify Now, VSure, Wage Safe, and last but certainly not least, Yellow Canary. But to actually set us on our path, it is now my great delight to introduce our first speaker, Rohan Geddes from PwC, who will be giving us an intro to employment compliance. Rohan is the national leader of PwC's payroll consulting practice and employment services practice. Following a vision of raising the profile and potential of payroll, Rohan supports Australian and international employers, helping improve the effectiveness of their payroll functions and supporting the management of their tax and regulatory affairs with authorities, including Fair Work, the Australian Taxation Office, and state revenue officers. In addition, He has worked in Australia and the US, providing personal tax and international tax assistance to high net worth individuals and international assignees. So without further ado, I'm going to ask everybody else to remain on mute and turn your cameras off, and I'm going to invite Rohan to come to the virtual stage with his camera and his mic on. Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you, Deb, and good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for that warm welcome, Deb. It is a pleasure to be asked to open this RegTech Edge Employment Compliance Solutions event. The focus on employment compliance in Australia has never been higher. Improved global platforms have contributed to the rise of gig, global, contingent workers. COVID's given rise to flexible working and working from home. There's a creation of tools that are driven by the regulators, such as SuperStream, Single Touch Payroll, that provide regulators such as the tax office with more timely access to data than they've ever had before, which is allowing real-time compliance monitoring at the regulator's end. And of course, we have wage theft, which has been front page news in the media for the last 4 years. Deb mentioned the Job Summit. Compliance is not going to get easier because of the Job Summit. Changes were proposed to support Australian productivity, which will bring in a new wave of compliance, regulation and legislative change. These changes will affect enterprise bargaining, the better off overall test. They'll provide increasing flexibility around working arrangements and unpaid parental leave. They'll criminalise wage theft, and they'll increase the focus on gender pay gap reporting. So the trends in Australia are definitely towards regulators getting involved in employment compliance. But those trends are not limited to Australia. The trend's global. Real-time reporting, like Single Touch Payroll, is being rolled out in countries around the world. We're seeing increased government intervention to protect vulnerable workers, including protecting day workers, gig economy rights, and limiting overtime for traditional employees. Wage theft matters have also been front page news in countries from the UK to Canada to Singapore. And gender pay gap reporting and compliance is gaining teeth in the UK. So how are employers dealing with this? Are they becoming alive to these changes in perspective from the regulators? Yes, although it is still a work in progress with a necessary need to observe what's happening and to react. And this creates opportunities for advisors to develop tech solutions which can help employers to react to this changing environment. How so? Well, many industries have embraced non-traditional workers, gig workers, contractors, as a reaction to the labour skills shortage, or they've moved to work from home as a reaction to COVID and lockdowns. This creates opportunities around everything from speeding up the identity verification process for new employees to making the onboarding process less reliant on face-to-face interaction. From a wage compliance perspective, employers and boards have come to realise that payroll is complex, costly, and too often running without the benefit of an adequate risk and controls framework. With regulators viewing payroll as the source of truth, employers are looking for solutions to provide an increased level of comfort as to the accuracy of the payrolls. And thirdly, management is looking for the provision of workforce insights and predictive analytics to support them on matters such as gender pay gaps and adapting to workforce trends. Deb talked about some of the solutions that are being positioned for the large end of the workforce. But it's got to be remembered that almost 3/4 of the employers operating in Australia have less than 20 employees. They employ between them 40% of the Australian workforce. So while medium to large employers have the luxury of engaging lawyers and accountants to support the analysis and the controls processes, there's a vital and large part of the workforce that require tech solutions that can help them manage their ongoing obligations with minimal intervention and oversight. Within this background, today's event promises to be relevant and timely. The opportunities are ripe in the Australian and the global workforce for technology solutions that can provide employers with certainty on their employment obligations. And today we will hear from a series of presenters who can provide RegTech solutions to issues ranging from speeding up the recruitment process, employee ID verification, right to work assessments, monitoring licensing requirements, to providing comfort over payroll compliance, to the provision of workforce insights for management. I'm looking forward to today's presentations, and I hope that you find today's event useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan. Appreciate that. So I'm going to just let everybody on the line know, if you haven't been to one of these before, what they are pretty rapid fire. And so I'm going to ask each presenter in turn to come up to the virtual podium. They will have 5 minutes each. At the 4-minute 30 mark, I will turn my camera on, which is their trigger to know that they've got to start wrapping up. And what we're encouraging is interactivity on the chat. So if you have a question, please pop it on the chat, and that should be directed, make it clear who your question is for. And we will ask the presenter then to jump on the chat and then help answer that question, and everybody can have the benefit of the answer in public. So we might, without further ado, get underway. And the first person I'd like to invite to the virtual podium, if you could turn on your camera and your mic. Thank you, Graham Barty from Credential. Thanks, Graham.
Thanks very much, Deborah. It's my pleasure this afternoon to present to you a capability that you may not have heard of yet, and that's in the form of a Credential Exchange software as a service solution. And the intention and capability of this software as a service solution is to accelerate global workforce compliance and engagement. Next chart, please. Credential is a software as a service technology company. We're building and have deployed a Credential Exchange platform. Whilst we were established in Perth in 2015, we do have a global focus. And most importantly, we deployed a highly scalable and secure Amazon Web Services full services architecture in October of 2021. It's got a very high security score. We're ISO 27001 certified, and we're GDPR compliant, and the tool is based on all of the principles of privacy compliance. Next chart, please. So we're really interested in managing decentralized data in the digital economy, which many of the other solutions are going to be talking about today. But what we're really focused on is delivering a decentralized, frictionless SaaS regulation compliance solution. We're targeting individuals or sole traders to securely store, manage, and exchange their personal credentials or the credential information that's required for them to be engaged in the workforce. And in the same space, we're also engaging businesses who want to request and view in real time compliance for job-by-job requirements. Next chart, please. So the compliance solution for workers is really targeting those workers that Rowan mentioned, contract or insecure workers. They may have many jobs or they may have many employers at the same time. And the benefits of this Credential Exchange capability is ability to store my credentials once but reused many times. I'm only sharing the credential information I want to share, those elements that are necessary for the job, not all the elements that relate to my gender or my age or my address, for example. I can build a credential stack on a per job task for I may be a Lyft driver, an Uber driver, or an Ola driver. So that's a stack credential for that task, but it changes as I target it towards different employers. When I do so and I have those credentials ready and to go, I can compete for jobs faster. And most importantly, I can really speed up my onboarding. If I want that gig tonight, if I'm working in the hospitality sector, or if I want the project contract tomorrow, then I have the ability to digitally engage straight away. Next chart, please. So for employers and employment service providers, we're targeting the next generation career and employment service providers. And they're those providers that are offering the opportunities for those job-by-job relationship opportunities with their workers, where They might be cleaners, they might be hospitality workers, they might be aged care workers, again, where they're contractors or they're gig workers. But these new companies are emerging to actually aggregate those contract workers and find them employment opportunities. But one of their value propositions is that they're providing to the client, to the end customer, a contractor or worker that is fully compliant. That's one of their value propositions. So they need to be able to guarantee that their workers are compliant. So the benefits of having access to a credential exchange and workers' compliance documentations is that they're now able to compete for talent, the best talent, faster. They receive guaranteed and immediate worker compliance to job requirements. They can reduce the onboarding time and cost burden in a matter of hours instead of days or sometimes weeks. And of course, they can get a real-time status alerts. And where a credential might be revoked, for example, if a driver's license is cancelled, then they're alerted immediately that that worker is no longer compliant for the task for which they are either currently working or have applied. Next chart, please. So what does an exchange look like? On the individual side, the worker side, it looks like this. They upload their credential or they swipe their credential from a digital wallet or other compliant repository. In this case, a COVID-19 certificate. We automatically ingest the cred data and disaggregate it into its data elements. On the right-hand side, I now have permission to choose what elements I want to share with an employer, and then I share the version that I choose. I can share it outside of the CredShare software service application, or I can share it within the enterprise application. So the whole element of this is aggregating the data. On the enterprise side, the enterprise can see that they have a status board, and so in the end, it looks something like this. We take the data from issuing authorities, we disaggregate it from a Credential wallet, we share it into the software exchange, the worker can share to any enterprise account they like, and then automatically send out to the final provider. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, Graham. It's
Okay.
a challenge to get it done in 5 minutes. We appreciate that. Rest assured that everybody will receive a copy of this, of the presentation, and we urge you to please get in touch with Graham, and also please do put some questions in the chat. And Graham, I'd be interested to know if you could pop in the chat like the kinds of organisations that you're working with currently is useful for other people to know. Thank you very much, Graham. I'd now like to ask Graham he can now sit down in his chair and camera off, and I'm going to invite Michael from CV Check to join us at the virtual podium. Thank you,
Thanks
Michael.
very much. Thank you very much, Deborah. If we could go 2 slides on, please. There we go. So CV Check is an Australian ASX listed company. Revenues last year of $26.4 million. Last year, we validated in excess of 650,000 credentials across numerous industries and requirements and many businesses. Over 10,000 Australian New Zealand companies use us today to validate their credentials, to assess background screening, but also and increasingly ensure that their workforce, their compliance requirements for their organisation, for all of their staff, is actually maintained and monitored day in, day out, 24/7 in real time. So we very much see within CV Check the requirement that getting credentials validated, getting them understood, know your people, if you will, is a critical requirement going forward. We certainly had in our intro exactly the type of challenges facing businesses, big and small, is all about making sure that your workforce is compliant at all times, but then enabling or empowering those organisations to do it simply. And I think that's one of the key focuses of the industry. It's certainly a key focus for us, is ensuring that the obligations and requirements of compliance do not become an overhead or an administrative restriction on the organisation to actually focus on the business that they're in, as opposed to actually spending too much time around the compliance. So the CV Check solutions are all about making that compliance monitoring and management simple, and certainly leads into the centre product there listed on the sheet, our on-site digital credential passport with a validated digital ID. Big part for us of actually moving the requirements of compliance and making it simple is putting it into the hands of workers. Next slide, please. So the solution that we have is made up of numerous products and services, and is about that virtuous cycle of ensuring that you've got reliable, trusted information that is validated, feeding into the system. And for us, a piece of relevant compliance required information is anything required by an organisation. So it may be an external credential from an educational institution or a licence or any kind of back to source piece of data. It could equally be that somebody at some particular site has had their inductions, those induction requirements haven't changed, or that their regular training schedule needs to be updated and that person has in fact met those requirements. Very much for us is about putting
Michael, I think you've gone on mute.
somebody, yep, I'm back on now, hopefully back. Mentioning that key for us is ensuring that the control of that information is in the hands of the individuals who own that data. And certainly, again, our on-site product is very much focused around that. Next slide, please. So at the cornerstone of our solution is the cited real-time compliance engine. And this is a SaaS product that is designed from the ground up for the evolving and also incredibly individually complex requirements for organisations. Just because somebody has a requirement in one particular company in one particular location about what compliance requirements they have, it doesn't mean that is automatically the same, even within the same organisation at a different location. And the platform actually manages that. It also maintains the ability to actually forecast and view into the future, where you can either model what the compliance requirements are should a change be planned or needed, or alternatively, if you're starting a new production, a new development, making sure that when that is coming up, your staff are going to be compliant at that point in time in the future, or what is going to need to be done and therefore planned to actually bring that into the situation. Next slide, please. So just very quickly about our on-site passport. Key thing, as I mentioned, this is the cornerstone of us making compliance simple for organisations. We are moving the requirements and the obligations of managing compliance into the hands of the workers themselves, all the way through things like automated digital identity and biometrics and various AI. Next slide, please. A couple of very quick examples where we've actually put this into practice, and whether it's in the industrials of Atlas Iron and speeding up workers' deployment to site or centralised repository of credential status for those organisations, or in healthcare and the work we're doing with Higher Up, where you have a very disparate workforce and making sure that they are compliant at all times. And I think that would be my 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Well done on the money, Michael. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to invite Renee from Found You. Renee, your time starts now.
Excellent. Hello, I am Renee from Found You, and Found You is an end-to-end workforce management platform. So what does end-to-end mean? It's pretty straightforward. We go all the way from onboarding through to rostering, time and attendance, including an iPad, like a clock in and clock out service. And then we've got automated award interpretation, payroll, and of course, reporting. Next slide, please. So now we were actually founded in 2015. I've made a typo there. So founded in 2015, fully Australian based. And why that's really important is because we were built specifically for the Australian payroll environment, and we all understand the complexities there. So we have spent a lot of time and a lot of money building out our award interpretation engine to be able to facilitate nearly any award rule under the sun. And our goal has really been that automated payroll and that compliant payroll. I come from a labour hire background. I understand sort of the intricacies of trying to get it right. So that's really what it was born out of. Next slide, please. We understand that those complexities, you know, they're specific, they're across awards, they're across entities, they're across everything. We also understand that for a lot of small to medium businesses, integrating multiple products isn't actually realistic. It's really cost prohibitive. So our goal was to be able to actually make enterprise level software and capability really, really accessible for every sort of business type in Australia, as well as ensure that payroll was, of course, compliant, but we had that level of data integrity. And the only way that we could do that in our eyes was ensuring that we capture the same information right from onboarding, have the employee enter that in, and it should flow through all the way to payroll and through after that as well. So it's the whole system, and that's what's really important. What we also have really importantly is things like Vivo checks in it. So we do completely free, automatic and instant Vivo checks for every person that you could potentially onboard as well. Next slide, please. Sorry, I probably was a little bit behind. So yeah, so free visa checks, we've got inbuilt reporting, simple things like on the roster itself, you can actually roster someone on. And because we have that built-in award interpretation, you can get a to the cent outcome of what that shift is going to cost you, or potentially what a roster is going to cost you as well. That allows you to actually import sales data, import other data against it to make really good labour decisions. So brilliant for big entities, as well as really good for those smaller, really labour conscious entities as well. Next slide, please. Sorry, just next one. Excellent. So here's a really brief case study. So basically one of our customers is Healthier. So they run all sports physios. They've got over 3,000 employees. They've got multiple venues, multiple sites as well, so over 300. And this is really our bread and butter. It's really where we shine when there's that multi-entity, multi-award, multi-venue sort of entity. So prior to FoundU, they were doing manual timesheets, manual award interpretation, and payroll was taking them a very, very long time. They had no visibility at all around their labour costs, and it was also very decentralised. So there was a lot of chasing information, nowhere to go in and just run a report for the whole group. After we implemented FoundU, and it was about I think it was about a 6-month implementation process, and implementation is entirely free. There's no locking contracts in FoundU either, because we really, really believe in what we do, and not many customers leave us either. But we had clocks at every single site. It was simple as an employee clocking in and out, a manager approving that shift, and payroll would be there ready and generated, ready to go. So it completely streamlined their organisation. Huge cost optimizations as well, because the platform is very cost effective. That's really been our goal. And it is true SaaS. You only pay for what you use. We don't charge for admin users or anything like that. It's pay per employee worked or / paid. It's as simple as that. Next slide. So our customers span all sorts of industries. Across health and fitness, retail, manufacturing, labour hire, hospitality, as you can see there. Essentially any organisation that has a high turnover or hourly paid employees are an organisation that would be a really, really great fit for FoundU. There we go. I think there's one more, and there's my contact details here.
Well done. Thank you, Renee. You came in 10 seconds early, so that's fantastic. Can I just say to the presenters, if you would like to put a link into the chat to some case studies or how people can contact you or your web URL, please do feel free to do that. And also just any insights that you might have along the way as well. Thanks very much, Renee. I'm now going to welcome Sadie from PwC's Paylab to join us. Hi, Sadie.
Hello.
I'll start your time now.
Good day, everyone. I'm Sadie Lees, one of the partners in PwC's dedicated wage trust team. I'll spend 5 minutes talking about PwC's Paylab, which has been developed to help employees manage payroll risk, ongoing compliance, and workforce insights. To get to the Paylab tech we have today has been a journey and incorporates learnings over the last 9 or so years. These learnings are with the tech itself, but also incorporating perspective and needs of our clients and our wage trust team, being employment lawyers, payroll specialists, tax specialists, software engineers, data analysts, and with a lot of healthy debate between those along the way. A key learning for us is that the tech needs to service a lot of stakeholders at our clients, both internal and external. Most clients are on a journey. They're changing systems, processes, people, and tools. The legislative landscape is changing, and therefore the solution cannot be static. Typically, our Paylab is being used to support larger businesses with large workforces with a lot of industrial instruments and obligations, particularly where they're continually incorporating advice from third parties, such as external counsel. On this journey, PwC have supported employers to pay over 1 million employees. So if we go to the next slide, we can talk technology. This gives a high-level overview of the Paylab, which is a suite of pay compliance tools. Putting this on a page from left to right, first we step out the source data, lots of data sets, lots of different systems. I think the key takeaway here is the importance of the completeness and consistency of the data across data sets and the reconciliation back to independent data sources, such as bank files. Second, we look at data transformation. This is where we've developed flexible reference and mapping tables, but really the key value here is in the 9 years of learning on the curation schema, and that allows us to really get after compliance in a scalable and flexible way. We then look at our modules or rules engines and the associated reporting layers. So first is data quality and validation. This is often a significant pain point in getting the right outcomes for compliance. And this is where we use our tech to help employers make defensible assumptions. Next is compliance. So we've built a learnings-based series of preset compliance tests. So this might be casual conversion, minimum engagement, or STP2. This is a cost-effective and gives high employee coverage with a quick pulse on risk and can be easily tailored. Next would be our award or enterprise agreement library. So this is a parameterized instrument template and an extensive library of configuration rules, which can be selected or organized in different hierarchies. We have a large number of pre-configured awards where we calculate pay and we can compare that to what was paid. I will note that while PwC have a PwC interpretation on awards, we always discuss with clients, around their internal or external legal counsel's view to make sure we're aligned. The reporting from all of this could be backwards looking, such as remediation, but increasingly forwards looking, so ongoing salary compliance monitoring, roster costing, and boot analysis. So if we could move to the next slide, we'll think about takeaways and what's next. So the Paylab tech, I think as a takeaway, is agile. So there's a lot of change in legislation and decisions being made and being tested in the courts as we speak. It can be easily tailored and responsive to the bespoke needs of clients and other changes. And it's insight focused. So it's important, the insight that comes out of our analysis, how does that impact processes and how does that impact workforce cost? Ultimately, I think the tech needs to provide confidence in payroll, either through a historic review or ongoing assurance. In terms of what's next, so what we're currently working on, I think a key priority is the roster optimization and analytics. We're in a high inflationary economy where balancing workforce cost, compliance, and employee value proposition is really hard. And I think work in this space creates a huge data asset. And the key then is how can we help employers best use this for insight? Next is supporting the boot discussion. So the future of boot and reconfiguring our boot test is a very live conversation. Next would be gender pay reporting, and modelling workforce demographics is increasingly in the spotlight. And I think finally, thinking about modelling for workforce of the future and looking out at the alternative workforce and supply chain. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Sadie. Right on time. Thank you very much. So we are now going to move to Kai from Verify Now. Welcome, Kai. You can turn on your camera now and your mic. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Welcome, everyone, and thanks RegTech Association for this opportunity. Can we go next slide, please? So my name is Kai. I'm the CEO of Verify Now. We provide employment screening services through our digital platform. I'm actually based in Sydney, but our head office is in Canberra. So Verify Now was created from our extensive experience in providing security vetting services for the federal government. And we created this platform to meet the growing demand for pre-employment screening in Australia. Our mission is simple. It's to help more organizations build a trusted workforce. Next slide. So why do employers screen? Well, there's a range of reasons, but we're going to focus on two. The first one is legislative and compliance requirements, and that's because we have to do it. For some of you on here, it could be because they're in positions of trust, or they're a responsible person who needs to meet the fit and proper policy from APRA, or maybe you're in aged care and you've got to meet standard 7 from the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, or perhaps you have a range of accreditations, including ISO 27001, and so you want to meet, Annex 7.1, which is around having a good control that covers background verification and competency checks on all candidates for employment, and these are carried out in accordance with the relevant laws, regulations, and ethics, and should be proportionate to the business requirements. One of the other ones that I want to focus on is about recruiting with confidence, and this is what we want to do for employees. We want to help them know that they picked the best candidate for the role, and it also gives the employees the advantage of knowing that they now know how to work with the candidate, so identifying risk and opportunities within that person. Next. All right, so what's our approach to screening? Well, you've got to start with the why. And an employment screening framework allows a consistent risk-based approach to do this, right? So first step, you should look at the policies. You've got to look at policies twice, but look at your first policies. Identify what checks you need based on the requirements in your policies and standard. By the way, there's a new Australian standards on workforce screening, AS 4811, which was released just this year. And if you check out the Verify Now website, you can see our blog where we've written the changes around 2006 compared to 2022. Then you want to develop a simple matrix that identifies, the risk security levels and then the appropriate screening requirements for that level. For us at Verify Now, we believe in the Goldilocks zone for screening, which is, not under screening and not over screening. But it's not just a matter of time and cost. It's also important about the candidate experience. As employment screening becomes increasingly common, it not only provides candidates with peace of mind, knowing that their employer is conducting background checks for suitability, but also for their safety and well-being. Next. All right, so what are the checks that we offer? At Verify Now, we offer a comprehensive range of background checks. Our most popular checks are identity verification, police checks in Australia and abroad, employment history, education qualification and credentials, reference checks, and right to work. And luckily, we've actually bundled these into essential packages that that ensure you meet most standards, including the PSPF, or better known as the Protective Security Policy Framework by the Australian Government. We also offer a range of aptitude and psychometric assessments. Next. Okay, so last slide for us. Why do people choose us? Our organizations and the clients include financial services, not-for-profits, charities, governments, and SMEs. And it's not just for our awesome name or logo, but they do pick us for our comprehensive range, which I've just gone through. And it allows employees to streamline their employment screening to one trusted provider. We're ACIC accredited and AFP authorized. But we also pride ourselves on legendary customer service, which includes our fast turnaround, local Australian support, pay-as-you-go approach, and a smart and user-friendly platform. So if you're interested to learn more about background screening, please reach out to our team via email, or you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kai. Well, you do win the award so far, 4 minutes 13. Well done. Thank you. It's a lot to get through, but you did really well. Thanks, Kai. So we are now, I've lost my piece of paper. There we go. We are now going to go on to Matt from VSure. Welcome, Matt. Your time starts now.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Can you hear me okay? No?
All good.
All good? Okay. Next slide, please. So VSure is a work rights compliance technology company. We were founded 11 years ago by this gentleman who was the president of the Migration Institute of New South Wales at the time. A piece of legislation known as the Migration Amendment Reform of Employer Sanctions Act 2013 was being debated and socialised in the marketplace. Mark raised a concern at the time that the existing Vivo technology would not support the compliance burden, and actually negotiated a letter of arrangement with Home Affairs to build a solution that would allow larger employers to better meet their obligations under the Migration Amendment Act. So we've been exclusively focused on work rights and nothing but work rights now for over a decade. And we're by far and away the largest provider of this service in the country, with over 1 million visa checks being done annually and a lot more Australian citizenship checks, which form part of the work rights compliance piece. Next slide, please. We've got a lot of major brands as clients. We service a couple of different products. Our web application is used by some of the biggest brands across retail, hospitality, agriculture and beyond. But we're also a supplier to the RegTech industry. Most of our competitors are actually our customers, so we don't really necessarily see them that way, including a number of the guys on this call. So great to see our partners also presenting their wares today. Our point of difference is really that we only do work rights with our web application. It's one of the only ones that is actually a legal requirement as far as pre-employment screening. And so by focusing on that, we've basically we want to own that sort of space. Next slide, please. So ultimately, we have 4 products in market. We have our web application. We have a white label solution that other companies take to market as their branded solution. Importantly for the RegTech space, we offer an API that offers a very clean, reliable, and I stress reliable, API in a RESTful JSON format for doing visa checks. We've microserviced our architecture and we license that out to the rest of the market. We also offer the education industry, higher education industry, a seamless way of solving for the study visa checking and confirmation of enrolment capacity planning. Next slide, please. So ultimately, what does the VSure web app do? It streamlines the process of managing the onboarding of new employees and checking their work rights, whether they're a non-citizen and performing a visa check, or a citizen and validating their legal right to work through validating their citizenship. Once someone's been onboarded, there's then the obligation to take reasonable steps at reasonable times to ensure they maintain their compliance. And in the case of temporary visa holders, that means regularly rechecking their visa. And the web application does that. Also does a couple of other things around providing an audit trail should you ever get audited and providing plain English definition of all the visa codes. Next slide, please. To the RegTech industry, we supply a very clean, RESTful JSON API that allows them to do visa checks in a very simple and reliable way. One of the use cases for that is obviously work rights. If you have a non-citizen, being able to electronically provide a visa check through our work rights compliance platform is one use case. There's also changes to the 100 point of ID in recent years, where there's the concept of a commencement document as a proof of identity. A visa check is a commencement document for a non-citizen. So we're now working with a large number of fintechs, banks, around visa check being one of the components of identity validation. Visa verification service is not available via DVS. This is a service that sits external to DVS, and hence why we basically are able to license, based on a passport details, the checking of a visa. Ultimately, we're about helping people with compliance, and a larger RegTechs themselves will use our web application potentially to check their employees. Next slide, please. So why now? We've actually, since COVID, which could have killed us because borders were closed, we've actually grown 300% in the last 2 years. And part of that is single touch payroll. Many people aren't aware, but Home Affairs is giving your data through the single touch payroll program on a pay cycle basis so that they now can audit work rights. Next slide. Here's my contact details. Any questions? There's a couple of other RegTechs online who should probably add some visa checking into their applications. Let's talk. Cheers.
Fantastic, Matt. That's what we like to see. People on our RegTech flotilla are sharing and collaborating, you know, to bring more integrated solutions to the customer base. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Steve Champion from WageSafe. Welcome, Steve. Can we see you? Can't see you, Steve. Oh, there you are. Can we hear you?
Hopefully.
Yes, all good.
You can hear me
All right.
fine.
Well,
Okay, thanks, Deborah.
I'll start you off now. Thanks.
Thanks, Deborah. So WageSafe, we were established in the first half of last year. We're based in Sydney. Our founding businesses each have been around for in excess of 20 years each in our spheres of employee relations and IT. Next slide, please. Our path is my original business started out doing more than 3,000 historical payroll compliance audits, and we felt, gee, this is too slow. There's got to be a better way of doing it. Too expensive for the client, retrospective, and that resulted in working with our other partners in establishing WageSafe. So what we've developed is a proactive, automated, real-time, independent payroll compliance service. And it can work even, you can check even before people get paid. Our clients include major fast food and restaurant chains and power distributor, amongst others. Next slide, please. Why does the problem exist? Firstly, in terms of, and people will often say, look, we've got the best time and attendance payroll system. We should be right, you know, but we still find gaps in those with those systems. 20% of the problem is a system gap where the system might be missing access to certain data that's required to meet legal requirements. The next problem is interpretation. And many payroll and time and attendance systems, like they're doing a whole lot of things, but they're generally not trying to be interpretation experts. And often they'll have to ask the client to sign off the interpretations that are being used in their programs. But the problem is that interpretations are highly contentious. Awards can be very vaguely worded. There can be changing rulings from different judges or tribunal members. But the thing is that we are actually interpretation experts, and more about that shortly. The third sort of area is user gaps, and this is maybe 80% of the problems caused. That it's no fault of the system; it's the people who are using the system. And let's face it, people don't always do what they're meant to. For example, a manager putting, as an example that came up just recently, actually, manager putting 3 days of leave for an employee into 1 day just to save time, but then that causes problems with the system and also the legality of the calculation. Next slide, please. So our solution, what does it provide? Firstly, we have user-friendly, transparent award interpretations, and we deliver those via murals, where we actually have we turn 70-page employment awards into a series of binary yes/no statements, which we can then give to a program at a program. But the point is, the interpretations used are very transparent. We also work real time, and we're actually doing detailed pay calculations, real calculations of what people, our view of what people should be paid based on the data we're accessing. We also provide independent assurance straight from the source data. So we're looking at the data, people clocking on, clocking off, and doing our own independent calculation. And lastly, we recently released a pre-payroll authorization sense check. So you can even fix the problems before people even get paid, because we're showing this is what people should be paid, and you can compare that to the system, what it's saying, what they're going to get paid. Next slide, please. So in terms of our difference, we're an external independent assurance system. We're not checking ourselves. We're applying independent logic straight from the source data that's being used to calculate people's pays. We're also real time and detailed, and we're able to do that by directly integrating with the back-end systems. And that allows us to, or allows our clients to deliver immediate attention to addressing issues that we identify by the discrepancies we reveal in pay calculations. We're also automated, so we can reduce our costs by using APIs to connect directly to our client systems. And as I mentioned before, the detailed calculations, we're doing actual pay calculations, not payslip scans or some other AI sort of process. We're actually interpreting and working out what the underpayment's going to be. Next slide, please. Just some feedback from our clients. Our clients tell us we're delivering them, for example, reduction in costs, a reduction in external auditing costs, improving payroll response times, dealing with employee queries and the time spent on them by payroll departments. We also can help identify system limitations, and by being transparent and showing a clear understanding of which data points might be missing, for example, to be able to get the calculation right.
Sorry, Steve, you're over time. Do you want to just do a 10-second wrap? Okay, quick wrap. Finally, just here's the senior people. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, one slide back. Here are the senior people. And if there's any sales inquiries, please contact Mark Jenkins, our CEO, or Paul Timms, our Chief Revenue Officer. Thanks very much for your time. Sorry to go over. Thanks, Steve. No problem. So last, certainly not least, is our friend Beatty from Yellow Canary. Welcome, Beatty. I'll start your timer now.
Thanks so much, Deb, and absolutely lucky last. So thank you for bearing with us all. It's been such a pleasure so far. My name is Beatty. I'm the Head of Customer and Growth at Yellow Canary, here to ensure our customers have the best experience with Yellow Canary and drive our mission of making sure every employee's entitlements are YC verified. And yes, before you ask, the canary in Yellow Canary does come from the old saying, canary in the coal mine, because we see ourselves as the leading indicator of danger when it comes to workforce compliance. Next, thank you. Yellow Canary was founded in 2017, and we're challenging the traditional approach to workforce compliance with our innovative purpose-built platform. Our technology gives employers the confidence that they're doing the right thing by their employees, while also meeting their workforce and ESG obligations. Our platform works at its simplest by automating the processing of payroll system data and time and attendance data to ensure compliance with legislation, awards, enterprise agreements, no matter how ugly we have done it before. And we work across all entitlements that are made to an employee: wages, super, long service leave, which I'll chat about later, workers' comp, you name it. Because where you've got an under in wages, you will absolutely have an under or an incorrect payment of anything that is proxied off that. And I now want to talk about who we actually help. And the reason I don't have a slide on this is because it's a bit like the dentist ad, that I can't show you any of our customers' faces. They're getting in a bit of trouble to do so, but we work with large enterprise businesses. So employers with workforces of 2,000 up to 100,000 plus across all sectors: retail, financial services, insurance, healthcare, aged care, manufacturing. The list goes on and on and on. The platform was purposely built to cater to all systems and all sectors. What I want to talk about now is something that I'm a bit of a nerd on and get a bit excited by, is actually where we've been able to help our customers. So I want to talk about two use cases. One of them is with one of the largest retailers in the country, and the issue they were having was, yes, they'd done a historical remediation, they'd cleaned up the past, But the issue they were having was ultimately, well, how do I remain compliant going forward? Because their payroll system and their time and attendance systems could categorically not cater to the complexity within their interpretations of the retail award. They also needed to not get into a place where they were underpaying their employees by not making these top-ups in a timely fashion. So we support them through our always on compliance tool, where we automatically grab their data at the end of the month, process the calculation, and then are able to push back top-up files, interactive dashboards, and more importantly, the process data that they can incorporate into their own BI systems on their end to really supercharge those insights. And the other one I want to talk about on the next slide is long service leave. Long service leave is the elephant in the room in the sector that no one is talking about, that we think is the absolute thing that should be keeping people up at night. One of the utility providers that we work with who are acutely aware of this issue know that no payroll system in the country can accurately handle both the entitlement side of long service leave and the payment side, because you have state-based legislation, you have different entitlements in the enterprise agreements. So this particular employer had 18 enterprise agreements, all with different long service leave entitlements. They've had a long tenured workforce. They've got systems and many systems over time, and they needed support with ultimately historical long service leave entitlements and actually making sure that they were correctly paying those accruing the entitlements and then paying the long service leave. And again, they've now cleaned up the past, and we're supporting them with the automated ongoing compliance with long service leave so that their employees and the business have the comfort that they're continuing to get it right into the future. And we're just getting started. So we see our mission as making sure that every employee's entitlements are verified and that employees and employers have full confidence in that. If you want to get in touch with us, please reach out. We love chatting all things, anything to do with workforce compliance, and you can tell that we are pretty passionate about it. Thank you all for your time today, and thank you to our friends at the RegTech Association for the opportunity.
Thanks very much, Beatty. You know, what I loved about today's event is that you can see the hallmarks of great RegTech, and this group is a new new part of the family, but you can see that these solutions have been developed by a range of individuals with very deep subject matter expertise. And like all great RegTech, we can see this reduction in costs and the reduction in risks and the new efficiencies that can be gained. And as I said earlier, what's powerful about these solutions is that they can be applied to small, medium and large businesses. They keep people safe, they keep businesses safe, and that can improve such things as gender data and tracking, which is critically important. And really, when we think about improved data and insights, when we have that, we can actually help. It helps us all build a better business. So great to see Matt call out on the industry collaboration issue. Thank you. We love to invite people in the community to come together and talk with one another and connect so that they can spark off opportunities to work with one another. And Beatty, I did not know that long service leave was the elephant in the room. So thank you very much, because that sounded very complex to the rookie here. And finally, I just wanted to say that everyone that you heard from today is on our member directory. So they are there 24/7. You can go in there and click on the little button that says employment compliance, and they will all come up. So if you didn't take down their contact details via the chat, you can certainly do so via the directory, and we will send out this recording to all of the people that registered, including those that are on the line. A couple of really super quick things before we finish up. The RegTech award applications for our members are open now. They close on the 19th of September. So please do think about putting in an award application. They will culminate in our awards dinner, which is being held in Sydney on the 27th of October. You can also come along to that. That is also on our website. We're going to take RegTech on the road, and we'll be holding a series of global showcase events in person. The first one in Singapore, the second one in New York City, which is very exciting. We have government as a buyer of RegTech solutions on the 18th of October. And our next two RegTech Edge No Borders will be on data protection, and you can see the list there on that slide. There's lots of things on the 13th, and regulatory compliance on the 9th of November. And then we have our RegTech Matters, which is our 101 of RegTech. So if there's anybody in the community that you think could benefit from doing a bit of a 101 on RegTech, that's the webinar to send them along to on the 13th of September. And as I say, all of our events are most of our events are free to attend. Sometimes if it's a dinner or something like that, there's a small charge to cover our costs. But other than that, most of the webinars are free to attend. So I think that is all. You'll receive these slides. I won't go through all of those now because we are right on 5:30, and I'm conscious that people may need to jump off now. But please join me, and if somebody could send some virtual claps on the screen, that'd be awesome. To thank Rohan from PwC and all of our presenters today. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, thank you for the claps. That's lovely. That's for our presenters. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thanks so much. And I'll call the proceedings to a close. Thank you.